You're welcome to Development Corridor. Today we have a guest in the house, a person of Mr. Obeta, Emmanuel. He's a brand manager, a known trainer, and also educationist. I will be talking about Nigerian Educational System. And also have in the house with me, my friend, always in the studio, Kingsley Okomoya, to be talking to Mr. Obeta. Mr. Obeta, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Yeah. It's my pleasure. Thank you, sir.
You know, there was this news that just came around, scrapping GSS and SSS. But this one we also heard that,
it's not true.
It's not true. That's not what they meant. People have been worried about our entire educational system. The quality of graduates at every level, secondary, colleges, and then the way it's being financed, the structure itself, the resources, the human resources, the teachers, their training, and even the welfare of those teachers and all. A lot of questions, and at the end of the day, it is the product that will determine whether the system is okay or not. What do you think is the current status of our educational system? Maybe compared with ourselves in the past or compared with other nations for today?
Okay. You see, when we talk about Nigerian educational system, and you take a step just some few years back, if you remember, we used to have exchange students coming to Nigeria to study from South Africa and from other parts of the country. So you now begin to wonder what has happened to our educational system. And you see, what has happened to our educational system, unfortunately, is also a reflection of our wider society. Failures in our value system, failures in our quality systems and standards of which we do everything. Because, like a lot of people have said, and which is also true, education is the foundation of the society.
Yes.
Everything we do within the society is hinged on our educational system. So if we get our educational system correct, then the society will be correct. But once we fail in terms of our educational system, we have failed across board because no meaningful progress will be made. Having said that, I will also say that one of our major issues is that we have not really sat down as a country to think strategically what is the problem with our educational system, what do we want to achieve from our educational system, which direction do we want to go, and what kind of society do we want to build. Let's take a couple, for instance, China started, Taiwan also. And if you remember some years back, the quality of products coming from China were known as fake products.
It used to be a symbol of mockery.
It's in China. this one is China.
This one is China.
Or this one is Taiwan.
Taiwan.
That is not, the quality is bad.
Yes.
Now, but over a period of time, you have now come to know that China can almost match the highest standard in the whole world. And even trendsetters. I give you one example. China started building these BYD vehicles. And one of the models they built can drive on land and on water. And this is a vehicle that if you park it, it can turn on a stationary basis.
Position, yes.
180 degrees on a stationary position. So what happened? China understood there was a basic defect in their educational system, in their production system. They understood that some countries like America had gotten it right. What did they do? They encouraged their people to go to America and study. Yes. And that's why today, if you go to America and some of those countries, the highest number of students are Chinese.
Any classroom you get into America.
So they found that there was a problem in the educational system. So they encouraged their people, go to America, understudy the American system, get job within the American society, understudy their industries, and then bring back the knowledge to China. And they were able, anything you produce in America, they would buy it, dismantle it, and then study it, and before you know, they will produce replicas of it.
Yes.
And over time, they will improve, and they will become better than you.
Yes.
And that is one thing we have not done in this country. We have just coasting, like whether it is 6334 or even if you abolish 6334, you start a 12-year. What value strategically has it added to our system? Sorry, one more thing. And then every year, like in the Nigerian universities, lecturers are perpetually going on strike. And these are people, very important aspect of this, our educational system. Teachers are not paid. When they retire, their pensions are not paid. So what are you communicating to these teachers? Their salary is not enough to take care of them, and you want them to teach our students to become better. You want them to be committed. Is that possible? When the man has not eaten, has not taken care of his family, does not know where his next bread is coming from, he won't prioritize his work. He will prioritize taking care of his family. And that's why you go to schools today, the lecturer that what he used in 1960 to teach or 1970 is what he just reproduces. Produces it in a handout, whether you like it or not, he will force everybody to buy it so as to make life go on. So we have a fundamental problem, and we have not sat down to dissect.
Let me put this way. You were mentioning value system in a way, because we don't value knowledge. Chinese people, they valued knowledge. That is why they send their people to America. And they are still sending, even while they're already doing well. If you go to an American classroom today, half of them will almost be from China. Okay, now, our curriculum in Nigeria, how do we integrate this value of knowledge into the curriculum?
You see, that is the disconnect we have with our society. The same curriculum that we used almost in the 1960s is still what we're using. If you go to the primary school, you will cry. A for apple, B for ball. The same thing that you and I learned in primary school, that is what they're still teaching those people here. And you now begin to ask yourself, of what relevance is what you are teaching them to today's reality and today's world? Every society, for instance, the policy makers, they see where the society is going, where the whole world is going, and they design a curriculum that fits what both the society and the direction of what the society is going. I'll give you an example. For instance, there was a research that was done. They listed out 10 of the most sought after skills in terms of knowledge and education in 2025. I will read them to you so that you'll understand.
That's interesting.
One is data analysis.
Yes.
Under data analysis, you have data visualization, data extraction, data engineering, data processing, data mining. Second skill, machine learning. Third skill, artificial intelligence, generative AI modeling. The fourth one, cloud computing. Fifth one, software development. Sixth one, user experience design. Seventh one, critical thinking. Eighth one, communication. 9, emotional intelligence. 10, project management. Of all these skills that I have mentioned, how many of them do we teach in Nigerian schools? How many of them are our students exposed to in schools? I have been to certain schools where engineering students, computer engineering students do not have access to a computer from the first year of entering the university to the year you graduate. You are teaching them programming language where they will code, and they do not have a system where they can to themselves, where after writing those codes, you put it in the system and see whether it works, and you debug it, and you know whether it will give you the result. So how will the person claim to be a computer engineer. You have not dismantled any computer. You have not assembled any computer. You do not know anything about chip production, chip installation, and all the circuitry involved in building a computer. And you graduate with a BS degree in computer engineering. What
Very
have you
loud.
learned? Or a mechanical engineer
Very loud.
who has not understudied anything about real life or construction.
Yes.
You give them a machine, they can't dismantle it, they can't couple it. Or the civil engineer who doesn't know anything about building bridges or road. You are calculating load on your paper and your system, and then nothing is happening. So that is the kind of curriculum we have in our educational system.
I was thinking that, just to pick a follow-up from what you said, in particular in this practical knowledge aspect, that was what gave birth to polytechnics in those days. Was knowing that degree, whether in engineering or any other, if you tend to answer the question about why, whereas the polytechnic knowledge tend to answer the question about how. Yes.
That, it will have been good for you to visit some of our polytechnics and see the quality, because when you're talking about practical, you need to have machines, equipment that the students will have access.
Physical equipment, things.
Where will you find them? Are they available? Where do you have the knowledgeable lecturers? And
who are proficient,
who are professionals.
Yes.
Because for you to teach something, you must have known it.
You must have known it.
If I want to teach you automotive engineering, and I have not repaired an engine, I have not repaired a vehicle in my life, only what I have read, how can I teach you automobile engineering? The lecturer, first of all, must have known the subject, both practically and theoretically, and can now come to the class, teach the theoretical aspect, take you to the practical aspect, and learn. Even if he doesn't have, create a partnership with all the mobile industries and workshops, where your students can go on a regular basis and learn the practical.
Foreign countries do that. For example, in Canada, they do what is called co-op option. Co-op option is, I happen to know somebody who, as you are getting admission into his college, the industry partners that you are going to work with as you are studying are already there. You register with them. So every time you spend some time with them. So you practicalize. So as you are graduating, you are ready for the industry.
Or they will even bring professionals from the industry that will now come and teach you other than your normal lecturer, expose you to other dimensions in the industry. But we don't have that in Nigeria. Lecturers are not even paid. Not to talk of bringing outsiders to come and...
So that's where I wanted to come in with. There's something you said. You said that no one of this system is isolated. Yes. The educational system is not isolated from those that are governing the educational system.
That's right.
For example, we have a whole lot of structure that is being corrupted, from choosing the ministers to having the permanent secretaries, to having the directors in the ministry, then to even having the VCs in place. All these things are politics. If we don't wriggle ourselves out of this structure that is already corrupted, there is no way the tail end, which is the schools, can have a breath of life. How can we do this?
That's a very tough decision, because one, you see, who pays the piper dictates the tune. Except one good intervention that the Nigerian government has done is State Fund. Because the funding of infrastructure in the various higher institutions, at least it has contributed to a long way in the facelift of infrastructure. But at the end of the day, you find the interplay of politics.
Yes.
The VC, if he's not appointed by the governing council, let's say some other external factors appoint the VC.
Religion is there, ethnicity is there,
the VC will not be responsible or accountable to the school or to the school authority.
Yes.
He will be accountable to those external forces that appointed him.
Yes.
And then let's assume somebody like we know in Nigerian appointment system, somebody recommended you, and in the process of recommending you, he knows that money will come out, so you have already agreed I have the contracts that you'll be awarding, you must give me 30 or 40%.
Not knowing how much profit you make. Maybe your profit is not even up to 30%. Because by the virtue of our law, the profit you should make should not even
25.
be 25.
It's 25. Look at what just happened in the University of Abuja. The VC that came in.
Time is against us. Maybe we'll have to leave that discussion when we come back from the break.
Okay.
We'll take it. Maybe when we come back from the break. So we are still at Development Corridor. Mr. Obeta Emmanuel is still here and Kingsley Okemoya is still here. So when we come back for the second half, we'll continue with the discussion. We'll be right back. Please stay on. You're welcome back to Development Corridor. Mr. Emmanuel Obeta is still here and Kingsley Okemoya is still here. Hello. Thank you guys for being around.
Thank you, sir.
Very, very insightful.
So we've been enjoying the discussion, and Kingsley wanted to say something
Yes,
before we went for break.
I wanted to say that a lot of the politics that go on, but not just only in educational sector, they still bring it into the educational sector. We are just even talking about the higher educational sector. We have not even got into the primary educational sector, which form the basics to which we can build our system very strong. We see government schools now are deserted. It's only for the poorest of the poor. Then we now have private schools that are on an exorbitant rate. And most of these schools, schooling is supposed to be mentally, emotionally, and physically. But we don't see that anymore. We just see one building that doesn't have a land where they do sports, which is supposed to be a part of education. And these are policies are supposed to help to build the educational system. How can we do this?
You see, from what you have said, education has become a major business in this country. Basically because the private entrepreneur has discovered a vacuum, a gap between the education that is being provided by government and the need of the masses. Just like you pointed out, nobody of means or average means will want their child to go to public schools because the quality that is being rendered there is not guaranteed. The environment in itself is very repulsive. You will have children sitting in classes when the rain is falling on them. So it is such a dilapidated and a horrendous environment. No meaningful person will want to take their children to such schools, which is what the private entrepreneur has understood. So they now provide the other option, which is supposed to be what government should have produced.
So this is where my other question comes in very brief. Don't you think if the government were very wise in their approach, they would have stayed back, become policy and people that bring out policy and also supervise?
You know the problem there? Yeah, you cannot in any way stop private enterprise from.
But cut it down.
But the government has, because all fingers are not equal. Not everybody can afford private school. Even in every part of the world, they still have government school. But the interesting thing is that those government schools are also well equipped and staffed. Good teachers, high quality teachers go there. They still provide good amenities. But what happens in Nigeria is that the government schools are completely abandoned. So it's not functional. Okay? So the only option or the average is, you go to private school. If you cannot afford it, then whatever happens in the public school, you just take it. Okay? And that is where the issue comes in. Then the education provided by those private entrepreneurs the quality becomes a different thing. Let me even shock you with another thing. Currently in Nigerian schools, they brought this system where nobody fails again in school. Everybody pass. Because you want your pass rate or yours to be very high.
That's in external examinations.
No, even internal ones. At the end of the year, you don't want to fail anybody because you will offend the parents. When you collect 3 million naira from a child and you want to say, you didn't do your work, you have not justified the money you collected. So at the end of the day, everybody must pass. And when it comes to external examination, even the schools facilitate the success
of the
of the students by creating a whole lot of issues, buying over invigilators or supervisors so that they can look all the other way around while corruption and examination malpractice is going on. So a whole lot is happening within our educational system.
Okay, Mr. Obeta, we have, I think, good enough for the problems and how we have itemized them. We want to clearly look at some areas of solutions, yes. You know, we're talking about having this industrial integration with our school.
That's right.
As a way of developing hands-on skills. As you are coming out of the school, you are ready for the world, okay? But the problems we have, that's why I don't want to dwell it, because we know. We don't even have industries. So, talking about industrial integration with the schools, we first of all need to even develop our industries. There are no production sectors really, apart from maybe finance services, banking, and a few of them. The other major production sectors, manufacturing and the likes, we don't even have them. How do we close this gap?
Okay, you see how to close it, because education is not just supposed to be theoretical.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a means of livelihood.
That's right.
That you have gone to school, and after having learned, you can come and practicalize what you have learned.
Yes.
And as you practicalize it, you now make a source of living or income
And
from
contribute
it,
to the society.
and contribute to the society. So in other words, education should be functional, which is where we have failed. I'll give you an example. You go to university and you read mass communication or communication studies, and you graduate. As a graduate of communication or communication studies or mass communication, what are you expected to do with that certificate that can, assuming you don't get job from anywhere, that can give you a means of livelihood?
That's right.
That is where the curriculum should be shifted to. For instance, in today's internet world, with all this content creation going on, no graduate of communication studies should come out from university and not know about graphics, to be able to do your own
Videos,
radio
graphics.
and video editing, should know about content creation, all different
Issues
sides.
of unemployment should have even been gone.
So that when you graduate, you don't get a job. You can start doing content creation, or you can do a whole lot of things within the field of communication. You know, you will have done your voice training, at least to be able to do voiceovers and do some voice recording and do some things. You should be able to handle a camera and you should be able to take pictures, you know, or movie camera. These are the things that you should learn as part of communication. But unfortunately, you know, some people in communication studies, they will never have seen a camera before they graduate.
4
They
years.
don't even know how to operate it. So when such a person graduates, the question now becomes, which is what happens to a lot of our graduates, what do I do with myself? It will take them like 3, 4, 5 years to get a bearing or a direction of what to do with the so-called education or certificate that they have gotten. Somebody that came out with a certificate in civil engineering should be able to understand a little bit about house construction, do some designs, you know, supervise the construction of house, do some quantity surveying by the side, or read some design. Those are practical things. So that even if you don't have a job,
You have a job
you
already.
can go to a building site and offer your services to the construction engineer there, and then you'll be of value. 1, 2, 3 things, you at least you get some small money to take care of yourself.
right.
You're not redundant. But that is the kind of education that we do not have today, because it's not tailored towards the realities of life.
How do we get it to be tailored?
That is by changing our curriculum, 1. 2, by changing the quality of our lecturers. Because unfortunately,
But you know that the way our educational system functions, our lecturers are almost like what you see in a local government area.
No, they are being chunked out
All
from
the,
the same...
all the employees there are by quota and allocation. In short, if you go to any state office, like a state secretariat, all the employees there, this one is from this, everybody's representing their local government, representing. So most of these lecturers were employed that way, and they are tenured. So they are almost demigod, because you can't sack somebody from their zone. They are representing an interest. They don't even bother whether they're improving themselves or not.
But Okafor, we also need to know that most of these lecturers are chunked out from this same imperfect university system
too.
But do you know the good news? Like some of these private universities, I've seen one or two where the students are taught some vocational skills. I know a university in this country that where the students are taught bricklaying. They are taught how to play musical equipment. They are taught how to do so many things. Bearing in mind that when you graduate, if you can't get jobs, you can create jobs for yourself. So some schools are beginning to imbibe that. And that's what we need. It will change. It will need some radical orientation.
Yes.
You know, because is it just like you pointed out? A lecturer, an average lecturer in the university is a demigod.
Yes.
You can't in the school. You can't question him.
Yes.
Students can't even talk.
Yes.
You know, you can't even question what he's teaching you. You will, so it's a whole lot of
And
things.
that leads me to a very, very fundamental question. Maybe we're going to take strongly on it on our next section anytime we're talking about education. I've always felt like what he said, you know, if you go to places like America, let's use America for example, apart from naval colleges, military colleges, West Point, like you have them, all those training colleges which are equivalent to our NDAs and all that, our police colleges, America as a federal government does not have one school. Now the model is this. We are three of us here. Let's say you are the student. This man is the one that has to cook food for you. If I give this man money to cook food for you, whatever he like, he cooks and asks you to come and eat. But if you are the one I want to care for, you are the student, you are my interest. If I give you the money as a scholarship, I give you the money as a grant, then let he who wants to cook food, cook their food. You decide you want to buy. Why don't our government focus on funding our students and let institutions be independent, present their product, and let the student go and buy the product that is okay. And the government will not say, okay, is that product you want to buy? We will not fund that one. If that's product, okay, we can fund that one. Why? But now, they give money to the schools, from VC down, they allocate it back. Whatever product that is left, they just chunk into the students.
It could be, it would have been a wonderful idea.
It's a structural adjustment, complete one.
But you see, let's look at every other thing we have tried to fund in this country. Has it worked? You give this money to the government agencies and parastatals to hand over to the students or to the different aspects of the population. Does it get to the people?
The list, they'll have a woman leader list.
even the debt funds you are talking about. Look how many universities in Nigeria has been able to access their money with debt fund. Not because they are not ready, but bottlenecks. The debt fund will tell you the schools can...
Correct, but this school, it still have a control because they will still do the JAMB. Okay? Among those that pass the JAMB, there should be a cutoff mark, like it is. There is still a way, even though somebody is going to politicize the list, at least the person would have scored one.
It's not even politicizing the list. Look at the students we have on scholarship outside the country.
Yes.
Look at the level of frustration that they are facing. A lot of them are frustrated and stranded. The money that is supposed to be for their scholarship is not remitted regularly.
Yes.
So you send a student.
Sometimes they are threatened of being ejected from the school.
A lot of them go to our embassies to riot. You send a student to those schools that on the basis of giving the person scholarship, maintenance, at the end of the month, nothing comes. For a year, for 2 years. And you said those people, we have a very fundamental problem in this country. Administration and fund management is a big problem.
I do know this is not a political platform, but don't you think that if our punitive measure, you have always talked about mentorship, I have always anchored on reward and punishment. don't you think if our judiciary should rise up, if our punitive measure of punishing those who mismanage our money is taken up, that our government should be able to do the basic thing of reaching out to your people? Government is a vehicle of reaching out to your people. It's so basic.
I agree. If it could be done, but the problem is who will bail the cat.
It's still the politician that will do it.
Because the issue is the person there. You know, there are two systems and there are two laws or different levels of laws. Laws for the one that is politically connected and the level for the other one who doesn't know anybody. The one who is politically connected commits a fraud or does something wrong. You can't punish the person. Or the worst that can be done is the person is transferred from that place to another place.
But do we continue? Are we going to continue like
The
this?
issue is how, because those person is the candidate of so and so person in the society, a big man in the society. So before you know, but the ordinary man who does not have a godfather, you can punish him, and he doesn't have anybody to speak for him. Those ones are easy to handle. So we create parallel laws and different levels of laws in society. So the man who will get that position to disband this fund will be one of those godfathers, the representative of those godfathers, because the ordinary man on the street might not get that juicy appointment where such amount of funds are disbursed. And if there is any mismanagement, you can't do anything.
So when we want to, let's assume now our Federal Minister of Education, for any reason, decides to get back at our curriculum design, where do you think the input on this curriculum design should come?
Fantastic. You see, because policy is one very critical aspect of educational system, which is where this curriculum is done. I think what they should do is to get away from this internal curriculum structure where they say there is a curriculum studies within the Ministry of Education that handles it. I don't think that should be the right way.
Right, yes.
When you want to draw a curriculum for mechanical engineers,
Yes.
I think bodies like Koren
Yes.
and other engineering institutions
Yes.
should be involved because they are the people practicing the profession.
Yes.
They know what the current situation is, what the future situation
Situation looks
is.
like, yeah.
So they should be able to make quality input into those curriculum development, not just the administrators.
Administrators.
Because the ministry man who is working in Ministry of Education, who is not an
Only
engineer,
learn procedures for curriculum making.
he is what you read from the book.
Yes.
The man who is practical
Practicing
knows
it.
the practical realities of what is involved. So you should be able to tap his knowledge and use it as a means of building the curriculum. When you're talking about another computer, studies or computer engineering, you need to get computer engineers to be able to make input into that process. Because like today now, if you talk about AI, who in the ministry, how many people in the ministry understands AI?
And if you
or
bring
craft
that
computer?
money to train them, they will see it as a benefit. They're not put my name for training, they put your name for training. They are literally looking at the monetary gain from the training rather than the knowledge.
So underlying factor corruption.
Yes.
So if they want to build a good curriculum, let them get the professionals in those industries and in those areas who will make input into those curriculum development. And then when they do, because that's one, then the second aspect is to reskill the lecturers and the people who teach it.
Yes.
There should be a
Professional development
for them at every point in time. Because you can't tell me you're an engineering lecturer, you're a professor in engineering, and there are some, for instance, in civil engineering, you're teaching civil engineering, and you do not know about CAD, computer-aided design. What are you teaching?
A lot of lecturers struggled when CAD was taken over.
You see?
They were still putting their board, and they were like, oh, the CAD is not even original one. They were forced to get it. It took a while.
So those are the things. So because this is what the world is talking about. And if you're not teaching what the world is teaching. How will our graduates be competitive? You see what happens now, our graduates will graduate and you go abroad, you start all over again
because
your
accept,
certificate
yes,
is not
it's not
direct,
accepted.
it's not,
I think that's where we'll be kicking it because the time is against us. Kingsley, you have to leave your question for our next session. Maybe the next time Mr. Obeta is here, we'll continue. I think that's where we'll be drawing the curtain. Our takeaway is on the curriculum design. The curriculum design has to be all-encompassing. You have to go and talk to those who are practicing those professions rather than do it yourself in the ministry. I think it's a good starting point. With that, we can kick off a better educational system. This is State Development Corridor. I will be back next time.